What's up, everybody? Oh my God, we're live today. We're gonna do. This is Ask Me Anything Q&A live. I have some questions that were sent my way. I'm gonna answer those questions. So it'll be about writing, publishing, and more. Let's hit that intro and then get to the questions. If you haven't already and you've been watching these videos for some time and you really like what the content is giving you, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. We talk about the writing craft, or the craft of writing, analyzing film, not film, analyzing story in novels, film, television, etc. And of course, we do interviews with authors. All right, so today is some questions. We're going to do the first question. By the way, if you're watching this video, and it's on a rewatch, and you have a question, put the question in the comments, and I will answer it in another video, another live session, or I'll just answer it. I don't. Depends on my mood. All right. First question I was given. Why did you want to become a writer? Was there ever a point you wanted to give up? Why? I always tell people, I go, whatever. No. So the reason I became a writer is because when I was younger, I was an illustrator. I used to draw as a child. I was a child, and I would draw, and I would tell stories while I was drawing. I would tell the story in the drawing as the characters were coming alive and things were happening. And I just became like a natural storyteller, which led me to being a dungeon master, which led me to working in the comic book industry, which led me to writing lyrics and being in the music industry, so writing had always been a part of my life. And I don't think it was ever a sense of like I want to become a writer. I think I was always writing in one way or another, and it just became a part of my journey, and I like it. I love doing it. In fourth grade, I was told that I shouldn't be a writer because in fourth grade I had trouble spelling. In fourth grade, my teacher literally was like, they were like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, oh, a writer. And they were like, you should find a trade. And I was like, why? And they're like, you have trouble spelling. And I was like, I'm in fourth grade. And I was like, but anyway, but in fifth grade, I had a teacher that I wrote a poem, and he was like, oh, this is really good. He inspired me and to keep going. And one thing led to another. And, I practice my craft constantly. And I work in the industry. I work on scripts. I work on novels for people. I'm a developmental editor. I immerse my life in the writing world. And it's not that I ever again wanted to become a writer. It's just I was a writer, and it led me to the life I have. And there you go. Was there ever a point I wanted to give up? No. I'm a creative person. I think one of the things that really kind of give me peace, and which is the reason I like working with people and developing their stories, is because I just love the creative process. I tried to not be a creative person. I tried to retire once my music career. I reached a certain point in my music career where I was able to retire and kind of like do nothing. And I got bored out of my mind, and my brain was just like, I need to get ideas out. So I'm a creative person. So there you go. All right. What else? What else we got here? Got another. That was from Amanda. All right. I believe I'm saying this Elsie. Elsie. All right. Elsie. What is your real life work schedule like when writing? What is your real life work schedule like when writing? I wonder if this is referring to my writing schedule or my work. All right. Well, so again, I write. This is what I do. this is I'm a developmental editor. I also write and I do ghost writing as well. And also I'm an idea man. So they call me up and they'll have me, I'll be a part of a writing session just to kind of pitch ideas for people, et cetera, et cetera. So how does my work? I work within block scheduled time, time blocks. They are range from 15 minutes to 90-minute blocks. The average block will probably be 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And each block is dedicated to something. So I start my day off with, I'll wake up, I'll eat my breakfast, I'll take care of my dog because I got a little puppy. He's a 9-year-old puppy, but he's a puppy to me. And I take care of that. Then once I start my work day, my first time block begins, and I'll start with brainstorming. And then I'll go to finances. So I'll have a finance block where I work on my budget. I'll update any information that I need to, especially for taxes. I try to be ahead of the taxes every year. So every month, every day, I work on maintaining my money and organizing it. Then I have like an investment block where I take some time to do some swing trading. And then I take a break, and it's on there. And I walk the dog. I enjoy myself a little bit. And then one of the big things I like to do is in that time block, my day, when I come back from walking the dog, now I have my networking block. I have my YouTube block. I have all that. At the end of my day, and I work about a 10-hour day. At the end of my day, I'll have dinner. I'll relax a little bit, and then basically what I do is that's when I write, and I only write for an hour. So I have my own personal books. I'll write for an hour. If I have a client thing, I'll write for an hour. I try not to overdo it. So when I'm writing, it's a strong hour of time. And it's not really about how much can I get done in those time blocks. It's just that I am working in those time blocks. Hey, we got a real question in real time for live. This is, I have a question. In what beat does a poignant confessional usually occur in a novel? Like that part when a character just lets down their guard that they've had in the story and finally open up. This can happen in a couple of places. If you haven't already, I'm a huge proponent of the 27 chapter outline made famous by Kate O'Keefe. Excellent channel to follow. She hasn't really made a video in a year, but the information that's on that channel is also good. As far as setting up whatchamacallit, your outline and realizing when would the confessional moment be, honestly, when it comes to your stories, you're allowed to do whatever you want whenever you want. It depends what you're trying to accomplish with that. Now, I know you're right. You asked, lets their guard down, and then they finally open up. But what is being accomplished in the story? In that situation, it might be in Act 1, right near the end of Act 1, there's a plot point called the first plot point or twist, or it's like a pinch. And in that situation, you might utilize it there. Again, a plot point, a twist or a pinch isn't sort of like a dun dun dun. It's just a revelation. It's new information that has been explored, and there it is. Another place you might do it is during plot point. What are you doing, puppy? You okay? Might be in. I have a dog. Plot point 11, which is known as the protagonist can take a break and have a little fun. This is the fun of games. This is where we learn a little bit about characters. They kind of. Okay, one second. My puppy. You want to get out, puppy? Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Bubba. My little boy. So that might be where you explore your characters and kind of get to learn them. Another place would be there's another plot point twist. So this would be, let's see, plot point twist. I think it's Act 3. Oh yeah. So plot point 21 in Act 3. This is where there's another twist, and also in plot point 20 there's another twist. So there you go. I will say this much. Act 1 is dedicated to learning about your characters, their motivations, their positions, who they are, why they are, Uh, it's showing what they are potentially capable of. And then Act Two is broken up into two important moments. The ascending rise to the midpoint conflict is actually challenging what they are capable of and their positions, and showcasing them using what they are capable of to show that they are actually capable through proof. After the midpoint conflict, which is usually where the truth of the lie is revealed, and also they are incapable, they have been pushed to their limits and don't have what it takes to overcome the midpoint conflict. The descending fall from the midpoint conflict is known as finding a solution, which allows the characters to search and discover something greater. This might also be an opportunity in the descending fall from the midpoint conflict during those beats, which is also known as Section 6, the whole finding a solution, where the characters get to discover something about themselves, and through them letting their guard down and really talking about their lives, they might expose something that leads to the solution. So again, you have the right to kind of put it anywhere you want. You just have to think about how you want to use it narrative with the narrative. All right. So anyway, I went over this question. This was what is your real life schedule? So my schedule is based on time blocks, and I make sure I hit my networking and all that stuff. Let's go to the next question. And by the way, thank you to IA for asking that question. All right, where are we now? Oh, here's one. Dave asks, how do you create your main characters? Oh, that's a good question. All right. So my process for main characters actually starts with the idea of the journey. So I might be sitting around and I'll come up with a journey concept, like not journey like the band, but so for an example, I might say, what would it be like for a character to discover that they're crazy, but they themselves don't believe they're crazy? I wonder what that would look like. And from that concept, I'll start creating choices and reactions to choices, and putting the character or characters that I feel would be the protagonists or the main characters into these situations. And through those situations, my brainstorming session, which might end up in the story or might not, it's just me kind of playing with the idea and creating choices for characters. Through that, I develop my characters, because a character is defined by their choices. They're defined by what they say, when they say it, what they do, and when they do it, if they do it at all, if they say it at all. So to create my characters, I need to understand their choices. I need to understand why they are doing stuff or not doing stuff. So I like to put them into situations that would reflect potential story elements. But again, it's just my brainstorming session, and I just write everything down and I take what I like. Now, as I get deeper and deeper into my outlining process, so I start with brainstorming, then I do what's known as a short form outline, where I beat out what's going to happen through my plot point beats. And then I do the extended outline, which is I kind of extend those plot points into some scene work, but not like immense scene work. But then I'll do my zero draft outline, which is I'll take that extended outline and I'll start playing with it. I'll add dialogue and more character choices. I'll challenge character choices. So if someone chooses to do something, what does it create as a reaction? If someone chooses not to help someone, how does that reflect in the story? Does them not helping them cause more issues? Does the person get caught? Not get caught? Do they get hurt? Do they not get hurt? Whatever. So I'll play with that, and through that, I develop my main characters. So before I'm ready to write and really commit to dialogue and commit to everything, by the end of my development process, the characters are fully fleshed out, and I know who they are and what their choices are. And one of the things I'm really happy about is when I deal with alpha readers or even the beta readers, they consistently say your characters' voices are very consistent. Like who your characters are, and they make the choices that they would make, and you can see that clearly. So that's my process. Whew. All right. Next, what do we got here? What do we got here? All right, just reading something. Just reading something. Jesse, I don't know if this is a. Okay, here we go. Do you base your characters on real people? Yes, I do, and no, I don't. I'll go into that a little deeper. So, yes, I do. No, I don't. So the things I experience, the tensions, the conflicts, the choices, I may know the people, or I may not know the people, but I like to pull in experiences, and I take note of experiences. When people do stuff, even if I'm reading the news or if I'm whatever the case may be, but working with people, having friendships, relationships, I like to take on the choices or the moments, and then I like to play with those moments, and I'll expand and explore those moments, and therefore creating a new character and a new story situation that's birthed from like a moment or a blip or an idea based on someone I may know or maybe a stranger that I saw do something. Do I write characters that are somebody? Occasionally, I will do it as an Easter egg to the person I am writing the story for. Like I'll be like, look, you're in this story. I'm not going to tell you who you are, but you're in this story, and I just want you to know the character is basically you, because I wrote this story for you. You inspired me to write this story, and I put you there. Other times, what I'll do is I'll do an Easter egg in stories where my friends are in the story, but they're not a part of the story. They're sort of like somebody in like, a tavern or, some local they meet, or, maybe through travel, because I write a lot of fantasy. They're traveling and they meet them in the woods, and they're just like an interaction they have. And like that character is somebody I know. But rarely do I take a main character and do self inserts, even though I have nothing against self inserts. Some people do, but if you write whatever you want to write, enjoy the process. It's writing, it's art. But no, but do I base my characters on real people? Yes and no. I take little bits and pieces of experience, and that's how I kind of add some empathy and realistic elements to the character's choices, because I'm basing it on what my experience is for different kind of people that I've met throughout my life. Oh, by the way, thank you, Jesse. All right. Frank asks, how important are book reviews? All right. First of all, if you want to get book reviews, if you like getting book reviews, even if they're good or bad, and it's just something you enjoy, get the book reviews. This is my opinion. Book reviews are not important. They are opinions. A book review does not express your brand or the brand of your story. It's just a direct reflection of the perspective from the person reading your book. It's a review on how they experienced your book from their perspective. It has no real value when it comes to defining your brand or the book in general. Again, Stephen King can write, but I don't like Stephen King books. Does that mean Stephen King books are bad? No, they're just bad for me. I don't like horror books. It's not my thing. So if I reviewed a Stephen King book, my feeling on it, if I was not a developmental editor or someone who understood writing, I might review that book as this was not a fun read. I did not enjoy it. It made me sick to my stomach, whatever the case, right? Now, if I reviewed it as a writer, I might critique it. I might talk about the elements that stood out that I enjoyed, but it would have nothing to do with the book. It would be a writer's point. So again, it's just my visual perspective. If you really want to build value for your book or your career as an author, work on getting interviews. Interviews have to do with your brand and your perspective. Interviews allow you to speak and get your thoughts out on things. As long as you're not talking solely about your book or trying to sell your book, it's about you as an author and your journey. What you get to do is you get to represent what you believe in and your brand through the presentation of that interview. And people can connect through you because they could have empathy for you. They can relate to you. No one can relate to your book. No one can relate to that. It's just a book. In fact, how many interviews have you heard where an author comes on and they read the book? Zero. Because they come on and they talk about things. They talk about their life, their adventure, their family, the process, maybe a limerick or something. Same thing with movie stars, musicians. No one really talks about the thing to sell it. They talk about experiences on set, which is behind the scenes, etc., etc. So interviews really create a journey for your audience to connect with you. Whereas a review is from some random person out there in the world who has a very specific opinion on their perspective of your book. It's more about their brand because of how they look at it than about your book. So I do get reviews because it's part of the process, but I don't think they're important. If someone says something bad about something I wrote, I don't really like. One time somebody told me my poetry book was congested. The author should have let the poems breathe by putting a poem on a page. The book had over 300 and something poems, if not more. So that's 300 pages right there. But then I had old lyrics from my old band. I had it was annotated. I had philosophical thoughts. It would have been a poetry book that was filled. It would have been like 600 pages. And, that's a crazy sized book and very expensive. So to make it affordable, because I wanted it, I think it's $10 or something. I wanted it to just be something some people can have. And it wasn't about making money. It was something I made because I had beaten cancer. And I was like, I have all these poems. I never really considered myself a poet per se. But I was like, here's a collection of my thoughts, philosophies, songs that I didn't release, lyrics. And I put it out. And their critique was, it was a hard read because the poems didn't breathe. It was too congested. But it has nothing to do with the substance of the book or the context or the subtext or anything that had to do with the book. It was just their experience of reading the book. So I was like, thank you for letting me know how you felt about the book. Anyway, I'm not really a big fan of reviews. All right. Thank you, Frank. Who's this? Robin. What advice do you have for creating compelling romantic relationships and crafting satisfying emotional arcs in a romance novel? Ooh, all right. Not sure if you know this, but I'm a huge fan of romance. I love romance. Give me that romance. Can't go wrong with romance. That's what I always tell people. So I guess let me answer this. All right, I'm gonna end it. 1 second. All right, you ready? So, what advice do I have for creating compelling romantic relationships and crafting satisfying emotional arcs in a romance novel? All right, let's do this. Okay. So, the advice I would give for compelling romantic relationships is think about what you're trying to say with your romance. Like, what are you trying to say with your story beyond I have a romance going on? Think about the subtext, the themes, and the purpose of that romance to really elevate the story. To make it three-dimensional and not one note, you have to think about all the elements that really dictate your story and say, this romance is more than two people falling in love, right? I'm trying as a writer to say something else. For me, I like to show healthy, compelling relationships in the sense of, even though there might be tension or conflict, my goal isn't to touch on the traditional storytelling tropes of I hate miscommunication. It's so bad where it's like, if they just communicated this one little thing, the actual conflict would fall apart. There would be no conflict. That's why I like Meet the Parents. Like, it's so difficult to watch that show, even that movie. It's funny moments, but ultimately it would be solved with a conversation, which it is at the very end of the movie. That's basically what it is, a conversation and an apology. Anyway, make it deeper than miscommunication or some sort of ridiculous trope, and add some layer of subtext that you and themes that you want to talk about, and start there. The satisfying emotional arcs come from, again, I'm trying to say in my stories, you can have emotional and compelling romantic stories where they're healthy relationships, even though there might be some discourse or conflict or butting heads, but ultimately it's a healthy relationship. But you can still have discussions that are oppositions, right? Where your positions are different. That's fine. So to have a satisfying emotional arc in your romance, think like that. And in that sense, where I'm saying I want a healthy relationship, I go, all right, what would the conflict be then? And I'll make it external. I'll make it that they're trying to maybe buy a house, or maybe maybe they go on vacation and they're dealing with issues that are actually maybe interfere with their relationship, maybe question their relationship. And then at the end, they become stronger because of it. Maybe it's you have to, so I'll simplify. Have a foundation that has depth to your purpose of the romance, and not just about miscommunication or I'm just want two people to be in love. Have depth to it. The second part is allow the arc to represent an internal and external truth that is being challenged. So you could do external or internal, or you could do both, and allow that arc to basically set it up. What are their positions? The rise to the midpoint is you're challenging those positions, which creates the tension, and then they find a resolve together against those, and that's your story. So I hope that helped, Robin. All right. By the way, if you're watching live and you have questions, feel free to ask me some questions. This is not just pre-generated questions that people sent me. I'm happy to answer questions in real time. All right. Here we go. Matt. Hey, Matt. All right. Matt asks, how do you approach building complex magical systems or fantastical elements in your stories while maintaining internal consistency? First of all, Matt, great question. I actually have a video dedicated to building a complex magic system. I will summarize that right now as quick as possible. Magic systems begin with your culture and history of the world they are in. The magic is representative by how that world exists. The second element is you have to figure out and choose, where does the magic come from? Where does the power come from? Is it divine? Is it inward? Is it earthbound? So some stories, like in The Witcher, they have to exchange power. So they have to take power, energy from something, and then they could use it, right? Other stories, it's more divine. It's more, the magic comes from some sort of, like in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf is technically like one of the angels or something like that. He's an avatar of the deity or something like that. And his power, it's a divine power, and not everyone could use magic like he uses magic, right? So once you decide how magic works, or in Brandon Sanderson's The Way of the Kings, it's you got the storm gems or something like that, and you could use those, and you could do these crazy things, and you could run around, run up walls and stuff like that, right? So you have to create, where does the magic come from? The third thing is, what is the magic's limitation? Once you start understanding the limitations, now you can create compelling stories, because you can put people into situations where that limitation is hit, or is going to be hit, or what do they do once it happens, right? Now, once you understand that, it's cost. What is the cost of using magic? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it emotional? Is it spiritual? What does it take a toll on? If I remember correctly, Way of Kings, the cost is those gems, or the spheres or whatever. One second. And as you use them up, that the cost is that it uses, and once they're gone, right, which creates also the limitation. So those are the elements. You need to understand the culture and history of your world. Where does the magic come from? What are the limitations? And what are the costs? And by understanding those elements, you'll be able to create and build complex magical systems. Now, that's soft magic or hard magic. We could really get into that if we wanted to. It's a longer conversation, but to simplify it, hard magic actually explains all that and shows the complexity of the system. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're building complex magic systems that are narratively interesting. It just means you have the complexity of a magic system. So remember that too. Just because your magic system is explained doesn't make it complex. Complex is story wise. It's more about the narrative and how it influences the narrative. So keep that in mind. I hope that helped, Matt. All right, we got here. Wayne, what techniques do you employ to create humor in your writing and effectively balance comedy with other elements of your story? This is a great question, especially because I love humor. I love humor. I did stand up comedy for quite some time, over 10 years. And I'm a fan of comedy. With that said, I write a lot of drama uh, and dark drama at that. The way I do it, the techniques I do is I try not to write jokes. I try to find the humor in a situation and not necessarily set up punchline. Boom. Like I try not to get that moment. If I feel it's that moment, I kind of back up and take it out. I like humorous moments that are character driven and story driven, but more importantly, it's through the choices of the characters. And with that said, I don't always have the funny character. I have characters that have different ranges of sense of humors. Some characters' sense of humor is dry. Other characters are just like silly. Other characters use it as a defense mechanism. Other characters might they're used to playing with the energy. They're not necessarily funny characters, but they'll play along with the different levels and energy of people. Some characters might be funny, but in reality, when it's time to be serious, they don't like jokes, right? But again, funny could just be their perspective on life or the way they look at life or how they don't take things seriously. So my approach, my technique is that depending on the character, I allow them to look at the situation and however they kind of move through it through their choices could lead to a humorous moment. I try not to make things funny. I try to bring humor. And the big difference is funny to me is like comedy, like boom, or, set up punchline. I really don't like set up punchlines. I like sitcoms for television, but when it comes to my novels or reading novels, I like humor to just be a natural element within the story and not just like, this is the funny guy, right? But anyway, for example, Lord of the Rings, when he's like, you're ruining it. And it's like potatoes, right? Like that whole, like the interaction is very fun and playful and is character driven. And to me, that's what makes that funny and humorous, but not necessarily, they're like, oh, potato. Sometimes you say potato, I say potato. Like now I'd be like, all right, I'm out. So that's that also helps me, by the way, balance the comedy with the other elements of the story. It becomes an element within the story naturally and doesn't overshadow it or take it out. I try not to make stories too funny also because again, I'm writing dark drama, but I think real life has humorous moments even in dark moments. I mean, I'm one to go around and try to make people laugh during a wake. So if that doesn't, even at both my parents, when they passed away, at each one of their wakes, I was the humorous guy. I made people laugh, and I bring some levity to it, and people. That's who I am, right? So keep that in mind. Thank you, Wayne. All right. This is my last question. So if anyone's watching live and you have a question, feel free to ask. All right. Question. Maria? Maria. Okay. How do you build tension and suspense through your narrative, keeping readers on the edge of their stories? What is tension? All right. Tension. Tension could be many, many things. How I build tension and suspense is through pacing. You have pacing, perspectives, uh, conflict. So the conflict, or again, each character has a position, right? It's their position, it's their how they see things. Their morals might dictate it. Their missions or their purposes. Missions are external, purposes are internal. Missions are what they want to accomplish. Purpose is why they want to accomplish things. All right. But you might have characters where their missions and purposes don't align, and that creates tension. Okay. Again, they might not fight each other. They might not hate each other, but they just have different positions, and they might bump heads sometimes. Timing. So pacing it can lead to tension or suspense. Setting up the environment of the unknown and allowing the characters to discover the world or allowing the reader to discover the world with the characters helps build tension and suspense. I usually write in third person limited. Occasionally it's omniscient, but even if I'm omniscient, omniscient just means that we get to go into the character's head. Limited means we're outside the character's heads, but there's a narration that's basically a godlike character to kind of see everything that's happening. Omniscient, though, is everything. They know everything. They know the history. So, like, a character could walk into a room, and the omniscient narrative can explain the room, the history, who's there, why they're there, could look inside people's brains, right? That's why I try to do limited, so it's more as the characters discover stuff, the narrator kind of allows it to be seen by the reader. I don't go further than the experiences of my characters, but I don't write in first person because I want to play with the other characters. I want to be able to allow them to move the story. So tension and suspense, I'll simplify that. Pacing, the choices characters have, and the discovery of information. And to reiterate on the discovery information, if a character walks into a room and the narration and description explores everything before the characters experience it, the reader has more information. Now, where can that work? It's called the ticking time bomb. Okay, Alfred Hitchcock was notoriously famous for this. He would show the audience the bomb the bomb under the table with a timer on it, and then he'd pull out, and now you see a restaurant filled with people, and no one knows about the bomb except for the audience. So now the tension is: will the characters discover the bomb before they're in time? So you could get away with that. But this is asking how I build it. And I like to build it where I let the characters move through the story, and as the characters discover stuff, the reader discovers it, and therefore that creates tension and suspense because they don't know beyond what the characters know. And as they're experiencing fear or unknown or worry or concerns or pushback or arguments or whatever, opposition, the reader gets to experience that. And again, like I said, pacing and choices. All right. So there you go. I hope that helps your question be answered, Maria. Guess that's it. Oh, wait. I have something else. Final thoughts. Final thoughts. Hey, I'm thankful and grateful that I was able to get some of these questions, especially IA for jumping on and asking me a question. I appreciate that. I really like doing videos like this. It gives me a chance to kind of ask questions and that are sort of like right off the cuff. I don't have any preemptive stuff that I write down or notes. This is just based right off my noggin. And I really enjoyed it. So there you go. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. And other than that, as always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much. Love you all. Appreciate the support. Be good.